Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's March 8th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And the time was now, yesterday, Matt, for the start of spring practice. And we hit the ground running, quite frankly, with bells on. I mean, I think we both were pretty fired up to see what waited inside the gates of Green Tree Practice Field once we arrived there yesterday morning. And I think you were even more fired. Like, you're usually Mr. Negativity. You're more fired up than I was. You know, I'm like trying to like keep myself kind of restrained and not, you know, jump to conclusions here over my excitement of the new coaching staff and what Mario Cristobal has brought to the table. But you were just like glowing with all kinds of praise walking off the practice field, and you clearly saw some things that impressed you.
I mean, I think you've been buying the hype from the outside, not from inside this building, because inside this building, I'm very positive. Don't listen to people on the outside that say I'm negative. I'm not Mr. Negative. I just tell it like it is. If I think things are positive, I'm going to say they're positive. If I think things are negative, I'm going to say they're negative. If I'm not sure, I'll say both. Like, I don't make things up. I'm not always going to say how great things are if they're not. I'm not going to say how bad things are if they're great. So the first practice, it got an A in the Matt Shodell grade book. Matt Shodell grade book, an A is the worst possible grade. So hopefully they'll do better from here on out. No, they did really well. Everything looked great. I was very impressed. Practice, the way they ran practice was amazing. Everyone running station to station, tons of energy. The coaches were actually correcting things. You know, we talked about it last year, how the prior staff, guys would be walking drill to drill, not even like trying to do the rep correctly, and they wouldn't even correct it because they knew the kids just didn't want to hear it, whatever the case may be. I mean, here they literally would stop the individual drill and talk to the one kid who would be very attentive and looking at them, not ignoring them, looking at them. Like there was one case, who was it? It was Brashard Smith, right? So Brashard Smith did a rep and he was corrected, maybe 30 seconds, you know, stop the drill, 30 seconds of instruction on what he did wrong from Josh Gaddis. And then as I'm watching, you know, Josh Gaddis goes back for the next guy to do the drill and stops paying. Josh Gaddis stops looking at Brashard Smith. And what does Brashard Smith do? He gets out of the line and just he mirrors what he's supposed to be doing in the drill on the side, you know, and then gets back in his place on line. Like, this is the old Miami. I'm not going to say the new Miami. This is the old Miami. This is the way you're supposed to do things. You know, push-ups as self-punishment when you drop something, do something, you know, drop an interception, for instance. You know, there's nothing wrong with getting out of your place in line to work on the thing the coach just told you to work on. You know, you don't need permission from somebody to do it. You don't need to be lazy and just stay in line and just wait your turn and hope you do it better next time. These guys seem to understand it. They respect the coaches, every coach they respect with good reason. And it was great to see. You know, this is the kind of thing you want to see when you're covering a team. Nobody wants to be Mr. Negative. You know, who wants to be negative all the time?
Well, you know, I think that whenever there's a coaching change, it brings positivity with it. I mean, let's be honest. Lots of times, it doesn't matter whether it's pro or college football, people change coaches just to change the narrative in their fan bases and their ticket holders and everything. I don't think that was the case here. I think that there was an awakening at Miami that it's time. It's time to take this more seriously. It's time to invest in this program. It's time to bring competent people into the fold. And I don't think there's obviously been any disappointment in those regards in the last few months. Now, one of our posters on our message board took a little bit of a shot. And, you know, at first I'm like, how do you take a shot in a situation like this? But then I thought about it more and I said, you know what? He's not wrong. I mean, he pointed out that we tend to be positive after every coaching change. And yeah, that is the inclination. I mean, when Mark Richt came in, I felt that was an improvement and it was going to give the program a chance to take a step forward. Didn't totally go the way everybody would have liked. There was one very good season in there in 2017. But then I think when Manny Diaz was given the job, I said from day one, I didn't like it. I thought it was a horrible hire. I thought Blake James committed athletic director malpractice. So no, I was never positive about what Manny Diaz was, the Manny Diaz regime, so to speak, at Miami. I was because it was the Miami coaches and the regime. Obviously, we wanted to see them do well, but I never thought they would do well. This regime, Mario Cristobal, these coaches, Matt, I think they are going to do well. Now, that said, a couple of the other writers were talking while we were sitting out a few periods of practice today between what we were allowed to watch and not allowed to watch, and asked the question. He said, Gary, how many wins do you think this team will have this year? What would you put the over-under at? And that's what really got me thinking. Like, we're all excited and everything, but you'd have to be blind to not see the holes that exist on this team. I mean, I could go through them all, but I'm not going to do it right now. But there's a lot of holes, Matt. And yes, the coaching is going to be better. The staff is massively better. The program's being run massively better. That doesn't mean they're winning 11 games this year.
So this is what I responded. Somebody asked me, I don't know, one of these messages on, I guess, the YouTube channel where people can post responses. And this was one that my mother didn't post, so I actually read it. And it said basically, about optimism, like why I'm so negative, da 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 da. And I said, the truth is, I'm really not negative. I think by taking a show me attitude, it's a positive outlook, because if you have very low expectations, you'll be happy in the end, which is a positive emotion. And B, the reality of the situation is all we've said, Gary, is that the coaching was great. We didn't say the players are great. We didn't say, oh my gosh, all of a sudden these guys are so much bigger and faster and stronger and they look like Alabama. We didn't say any of that. All we said is these coaches look great. It's the truth. And in the past, when we were optimistic, we didn't say, wow, what a coaching staff. We would say, this guy looks really good. It looks like this guy's really progressed. The progress on the weight room has been good, whatever it may be at that time. But we weren't saying this is a team that's going to win 10 or 11 games any particular year when a new coaching staff came in. That would be unrealistic. And the truth is, with this new coaching staff, what I'm personally very optimistic about is the coaching staff and the schedule and the coastal. Everything adds up to a 10-win season to me. But it's still the previous coaching staff's recruits, other than some freshmen and some transfers who can make an impact. But a few transfers, and I would argue that all except probably I think Ladson will be a big impact. I think Porter will be a big impact. But I think the other transfers are just rotation guys. So we're talking about a team that's not vastly different than a year ago. Now, I've looked at the Coastal and the other opponents. They've lost way more than Miami did last year. So Miami's going to be better than it was a year ago. And some of the opponents have question marks more so than Miami does. So it should be really good, but it's still not – it's nowhere near roster top to bottom wise anything near a Clemson, even though Clemson struggled last year. This is not a Clemson roster. This is not an Alabama roster. It's not an Ohio State roster. It's not an Oklahoma roster. You can go down the list. It's just not – if this team was
especially on the defensive side of the ball.
On the defensive side of the ball, for sure. If this team was in the SEC, this is a middle-of-the-road SEC team. This is a team that would finish if they were lucky, in the top half of the overall standings in the SEC. That's just where we're at. They're in a conference that's going to let them win a lot of games, which is great. But it's going to take, like we said, 2 to 4 years. Nobody has said this is going to be an amazing team this year. I don't know why people think we're all of a sudden so super optimistic that we're saying national championship this year, that people are acting like that's what we're saying. We're not saying that. At least I'm not. Maybe you are.
Well, yeah, I'm not worried about what we're saying. I'm thinking
the perception of what we're saying is different than the reality.
Is the perception, everything's just great now. And I think everybody wants it to be. But just look at the list of guys that are missing spring practice, Matt. You've got Jalen Rivers, who some people might think is the best offensive lineman on the team. He's going to be limited this spring. Maybe he makes it back, for the last week or two. John Campbell Jr., a guy that you're hoping would make a move this spring and get into the rotation. He's in the same classification. Romello Brinson, a guy that you're hoping would be a receiver that could, help replace Rambo and Harley. He's out for the whole spring. Sam Brooks Jr. is on the out list, but he might be, he was believed to be transferring, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. Don Chaney's going to miss the spring. Even Lou Headley is going to miss the spring, but that's not a big deal. Jabari Ismail, a defensive end that is a nice physical specimen, so to speak, that you would have hoped could have made some progress this spring. He's out this spring. Tyler Johnson's out this spring. I'm not sure he's ever coming back. Cam Kinchins, a guy that you would hope would be making a move at safety here. He's out for the spring. Jalen Knighton at running back is out for the spring. Nigel E. Kelly, a true freshman coming in that you're hoping could be at least a part-time solution to some pass rushing issues. He's out. He's out for the spring. You just go on and on. Chase Smith, a linebacker who you would hope would be making a move into the starting lineup this year. He's out this spring. Tyreek Stevenson, a cornerback, is out this spring. Keyshawn Washington at safety, Isaiah Walker at O-line. I'm not sure either one of those ever makes it back ever. So my point is, Matt, just in going through that list is like, man, I mean, it's like you want to take all these forward moves here, new coaches, elite, even analysts. I mean, you walk out today, you see Jason Taylor standing on the sidelines. I mean, Jesus, it's just a it's a festival of riches everywhere you look in this program right now. However, you can't be blind to some of the hurdles that still have to be overcome with all these guys missing spring practice, and then the natural holes that are on the team where you have defensive tackles that you don't know how much you can count on them. I mean, we want Leonard Taylor to be a superstar. We think Leonard Taylor can be a superstar. Leonard Taylor's not a superstar yet. Harrison Hunt, you're hoping can just step it up one more notch. Jafari Harvey, Chance Williams. You can go on and on and on, but they're all question marks, every single one of them. We don't know that any of them are going to be great players this next year. So, Matt, I guess the moral of this story is that the start of practice today kind of conjured up all these different thoughts, not just amongst ourselves, but amongst some of the other people that cover the team and, in chit chat and things like that. And it's going to be interesting one way, shape, or form. But I think we all have to caution ourselves into not oversetting the bar of our expectations to where it just becomes a setup to be disappointed. And we won't know what this team's really going to look like till September, quite frankly.
I don't know what the hell happened to you. Normally, you're on the happy juice. Everything's great. I never heard you so negative in my life. You watch one practice, falling.
There was a lot of introspection today. I mean, a lot of things.
I watched a great practice, and I never have heard you so negative in my life.
I'm not negative, but
that was listen. Fans remember people watching the show. People watching the show are going to call it.
Remember, we started the day with that long list of guys that aren't going to participate in the spring, and that was a gut check moment. I mean, that's a lot of guys and a lot of key guys on the team that are not getting reps in new systems, that aren't performing for new coaches. I mean, that's a big deal to me. I mean, maybe I'm being an alarmist. That's a big deal.
Listen, if I'm negative Nancy, you're gruesome Gary right now. I mean, everybody's hurt. This is a waste of a spring. All the good players. There aren't any good players on the roster. Listen, you're preaching to the choir, Gary. I happen to agree with you. They're missing 20%. I don't understand why you're so negative. You're stealing my thunder. Okay, they're missing 20% of the roster this spring. Why hold spring practice at all? I could be stone crabbing. I'm very upset. It makes no sense to have these spring practices when you're missing 20% of your roster. I don't understand it. It makes no sense. These coaches don't know what they're doing. That's what I'm hearing from gruesome Gary right now.
All right. Regardless, we do have an enormous amount of coverage of spring practice on the website right now. And I'll tell you, yesterday, watching Mario Cristobal, I mean, you could see how much it means to him to be the coach at Miami. But like, man, I mean, his mom just passed away. He had a wake the night before the start of spring. And then today there was a funeral that he had to go attend. And he came to practice first. And he said his mom would have told him, go to practice. And some of the other coaches were like, what are you doing here? Like, we've got this, he's like, no, man. It's like, I'm here. I mean, this is what my mom would have wanted me to do. And he came to practice. And even the post-game press conference, the sports information office kept trying to cut him off and saying no more questions, no more questions. And Mario's like, it's okay, guys. Like, I can change quickly. I'm good. And he was willing to sit there and answer questions for a few more minutes. And I mean, it's no secret. Everybody knows I'm a Mario Cristobal fan, but like, man, like that was impressive. Like, you can't question his commitment and, God, just about anything else, man. I mean, it was pretty impressive to see him out there today and doing his job and showing the importance of the team to him in his life and his appreciation for being the coach at Miami. All right, so we've got Mario Cristobal's comments after practice, and we also have stories with Jake Garcia and Tyler Van Dyke. And Matt, Tyler Van Dyke has become pretty darn polished, man. We've gotten to spend a lot of time with him last month or so. I mean, a year ago, this time he was a kid, totally in his shell. Nobody was really thinking very much about him. Now he's being called one of the better quarterbacks coming back in the country. He clearly is carrying himself with a whole new level of confidence. And we're watching him grow up right before our eyes, and you can't help but be impressed. And then Jake Garcia steps up and, Mr. Personality, man, like, the cameras start lighting up and, Jake captivates the audience as well. And Miami's in good shape with these two kids at quarterback, I think.
Yeah, I love Tyler and Jake to death. But if the media was picking a first team and second team quarterback right now, it's Jake Garcia, by far the first team quarterback, and Tyler Van Dyke the second team. Because you could just see the wheels inside Tyler Van Dyke's head spinning. What shouldn't I say? Not just be yourself. Like, Jake Garcia was like he was talking to a bunch of his friends. I mean, it was refreshing. It was a great interview. For those of you that haven't watched both, watch both. You will not see two more different interviews in your life. One, a guy who, I'm trying to think how to put it.
He's politically correct.
It's not just politically correct. It's almost.
He knows what he's supposed to say and not say.
Yeah, but it's almost like talking to a wall. Like he just almost didn't want to give us anything. I mean, it was just like
very business-like.
No intonation, no facial expression. And you go from that to Jake Garcia, where he's smiling and bouncing around and like so happy to talk.
That's
and it was weird, man. Like these two kids could not be more different. And when Jake started saying stuff about Tyler and just so complimentary of Tyler, so complimentary, how much work Tyler puts in, stuff Tyler would never say about himself. I mean, you can't get enough quotes out of Tyler to even fill in two sentences Jake said about Tyler. Like that was a better story on Tyler, the two sentences Jake said about Tyler, than the entire interview Tyler did. And it's about football at the end of the day. It's not about what we can have you guys hear or whatever. But from a journalistic standpoint and wanting a story, man, Jake Garcia is the bomb. And I guess you can't use war terminology anymore. Jake Garcia is the stone crab, the colossal stone crab. And Tyler Van Dyke is the stone crab you got to throw back because his claws are still too small. From a journalistic perspective.
Come on, man. The kid's come so far.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, like I said, I love Tyler. Tyler looks great. On the field, Tyler looks great. I just wish he would let go a little bit. Like when we get him one-on-one at the NIL, the wife wallet events, that's what I'm calling them from now on. Tyler's great one-on-one, but you get him in these crowded situations and he just sort of goes into a shell and he just is very, I think some of what happened last year for whatever reason.
He got himself in trouble a little bit with some of those wild
for whatever reason that still resonates with him, even though it wound up being a good thing. And it's a shame because he's got to just relax, man. And Tyler, watch the Jake Garcia video and just do it like that from now on, man. Because that's what we want. That's what the Miami fans are used to brazen interviews. Like Jake Garcia is an old school Miami Hurricane interview. And I wish all these kids were like that, man. Because like
he's like Broadway Joe.
Remember Clinton Portis? He used to predict how many yards he'd get. They'd be playing FSU. Hey Clinton, how many yards you getting this year? This week rather. 214. Like it didn't matter. And everyone loved it. And now it's like the kids on the team are scared. This is what can make Miami different to me. everyone in the country would love the Miami Hurricanes if they stopped being politically correct and they all just talk like back when Mario was here and sort of like what Jake Garcia did, but even to an extreme. That's what do you remember Romberg and Sherko and Joel and Chris Myers just on the offensive line? And then you go down all the running backs. Like from the top to bottom, offense and defense, man, these guys didn't care what people thought of them. They spoke their mind, sort of like what I do. They got in trouble a lot more than I did for what they said sometimes, but they didn't care. And then they went out and backed it up on the field. And sometimes when you say something that you shouldn't have, like what Tyler did last year, it lights a spark under everybody. And Tyler should have learned that from last year. He wants to be a leader. He learned from last year. Do it again, Tyler. There's nothing wrong with saying something that you shouldn't. Like, hey, we're going to beat Texas A&M. We're going to shock the world. Whatever, man. Like, go ahead and say it, and then let your teammates help back you up for it. There's nothing wrong with that to me.
Well, Jake Garcia literally is like Broadway Joe, you know. I mean, so anybody's going to look quiet and reserved next to Jake. I mean, but you know, hopefully things work out. Tyler has a great year this year.
I don't think he will have a great year. It's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah,
I mean, the
good.
talent on this offense is insane.
He can go to the NFL. Jake can have his moment,
right?
And it works out for both of them. So,
right,
all good. All right. Other stories on the website today. Jafari Harvey. You know, we talked to him a little bit, and I point blank said to him, you know, Jafari, this is it for you. I mean, it really is. Like, this is a massive year for Jafari Harvey. And there's question how good of a player he can be. You know, he's been here a while, hasn't done very much. Now they're really counting on him. And I'm not sure how much he has to give. And he's going to have to prove it. Not to me, but he's going to have to prove it to everybody. You know, so we talked a little bit about that with him. And
by the way, I was watching him in drills. I don't know if everyone else has gotten bigger, but he looks smaller than last year. I don't know how that's even possible. Did you
I think they're leaner. Like,
something weird, man.
They shed body fat.
Really small.
I mean, these
he
kids
almost looks like a glorified safety.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if that's good or bad, but you know.
Yeah, well, we'll find out whether it's good or bad. But these kids are like, they're in good shape. Like,
they're lean.
They're lean. Yeah. All right. We also have a story with Gilbert Fryerson. He wasn't sure what to call his position in this new defense. It looks similar to striker.
Well,
right?
we saw him clearly line up at nickel. He's going to be guarding the other team's tight end quite a bit. Like that was fairly obvious from what they did in practice. So
yeah, probably similar to striker.
You saw him clearly lined up there.
Just different terminology, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have a lot of analysis from the first practice, both in story form and on our message boards. You know, Matt was more out there than I was, but you know, I'm looking to see a little bit more here in these next couple practices this week before I give a whole ton of opinions. But we got to see a fairly good chunk. We got to see a little over an hour of practice. So you got some different thoughts and things that are on the website as well today. All right. There were several recruits at practice, and that's a big deal because, you know, kids can visit now, and none were bigger than David Hicks, Matt. And this is a kid that jumped out at me from the second I saw him. Actually, he made his first appearance at the Manny Diaz camp last year and was just the freak of the camp. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. Just in every single rep, every single drill he did. Miami did not do a great job with him when he was on campus last year. Drifted out of the picture. Mario becomes the head coach, gets Miami back in the picture. Dad, who loves Miami, brings David to the first spring practice. And now the love fest is on, Matt. And I think Miami is a legit player for this 5-star defensive freak, David Hicks from Texas.
Yeah, well, before we get to him, I also want to mention Antonio Tripp. When I talked to him, we did a story with him. He also visited. You know, so he's from out of town, right? He's from Maryland, and I talked to him. He was on his way to dinner, and you know, just being polite, I said, "Oh, you know, obviously I'm from around here. Like, where are you going to dinner?" And he didn't say anything like, "Oh, what would you suggest?" or "Oh, you know, we're heading to this part of the neighborhood," or you know, wherever they're going. He said, "Oh, we're going to Deli Lane." Have you been to Deli Lane, Gary? If I'm coming from Maryland to Miami, I'm not going to, nothing against Deli Lane. I love Deli Lane. But like, that's not where I'm going when I have like 2 days or 3 days in Miami. Like,
I don't even know what Deli Lane is.
You don't know what Deli Lane is?
No.
Oh.
What is Deli Lane?
It's what it sounds like. It's usually on a lane and it's a deli. No, it's a deli. It's basically a deli. It's like a sit-down deli where you can get your scrambled eggs. It's nothing fancy.
Where
It's
is
like your $8 scrambled eggs, $12 sandwich, whatever. There's one in South Miami. There used to be one right off Brickell. I can't remember if it's still there or not. I used to eat there. I used to live off Brickell, so I used to eat there quite a bit. I think that one shut down. But there's a few of them. But anyway, moving on. Yes, you want to talk David Hicks. David Hicks is, if Deli Lane's a 1-star restaurant, David Hicks is a 5-star restaurant. He's a 5-star recruit. And, I talked to him and his dad, and I think the biggest takeaway from the story here, because there's nothing really different here. He's already seen Miami. He's already talked to these coaches a million times. He already knows what's going on campus. He knows the coaches. He likes them all. The only real thing that I think was really interesting and different, honestly, from the interview is sort of the bond that his dad has with Rod Wright, who's the new defensive ends coach. So the dad is a former NFL player, and he coached defensive line at Morton Ranch High School in Texas. And Rod Wright grabbed several players out of there for his previous program, which I think is it UTSA? I think it's UTSA, Texas San Antonio. And he built a great relationship. The dad of David Hicks built a great relationship with Rod Wright, and and so did David Jr., because David Jr. has been getting recruited by Rod Wright forever now. Even though Rod Wright knew the kid wasn't going to go to UTSA, you don't not try to recruit and get one of these big splash recruits. I mean, that's just what you do, right? So the family loves Rod Wright, and Rod Wright happens to be coaching this kid's position. And I'm sure that's not why Mario Cristobal hired him. First of all, I'm sure people think, oh, that's why Mario got the guy just to get the kid. No, that's not. Rod Wright's a great coach. They didn't get him just to get David Hicks. But with that said, this is big news, because I didn't actually know that they had this tight a relationship before I spoke to the dad and the kid yesterday. And they are really, really tight. And, for those of you that think kids should pick a school, which they should, you don't pick a coach. But this plays into it a lot when you got a 5-star kid who's getting recruited by everywhere and told everything by everybody, because you don't know who to trust when you're a 5-star. Being a 5-star recruit is like being a celebrity. It's one of the worst things in the world, because I was talking to my neighbor today. We were walking to get my usual matcha latte at Starbucks, and which is a non-political drink, okay? For all you think it's a left-wing drink, it's a non-political drink. So we were walking to town, and I just lost my train of thought. I was thinking about it. I got so excited about my matcha. Where was I going with this? I totally forgot where I'm going.
I don't know. I'm looking at the menu for Deli Lane, and I think you're missing the boat.
Great. Well, anyway, whatever the point I was trying to make was, you don't pick a school based on a coach. You pick a school based on the program. But I don't know why I was talking about Starbucks. But with that said, you really, in this, when you're a 5-star, everybody tells you everything you want to hear, okay? And it's hard to know who to trust. So when I was talking to my neighbor, I was talking about being a celebrity. I said, I'm glad I'm not a celebrity, even though, like, 2 of you know who I was. I saw one of you. Actually, I was at the Coconut Grove Arts Festival. Somebody recognized me from my Good Morning CaneSport. He's here, hey, Matt. And he says, I don't want to give away his name, but, so we had a nice little talk. But anyway, if you're an actual celebrity, right, you can't really enjoy going out, dinner, movies, whatever. You're accosted by strangers constantly if you're a real celebrity. And that's what it's like for a 5-star. Everyone's telling you what you want to hear. You're constantly being bombarded and hounded by people like me. They love me, okay? They love me. They can't get enough of me. But other people like me, they don't want to talk to you. Don't call them, okay? Don't bother them. Leave that up to me. And at the end of the day, it's who they're going to trust. Because when you're getting bombarded by everybody, you don't know what to believe. They're going to tell you everything in the world to get you there. But when you have this connection to a coach who you trust and you've known for years, and you have that connection, you're going to believe what he tells you. I think there's a really good chance this program gets David Hicks, but it's going to go all the way until January. He's not going to announce anything until the All-Star game, the Under Armour All-Star game. But Miami will be in his top 5 when he announces it at the end of his school year, and they're going to have a hat on the table at the end of the day. And I think there's a great chance he winds up here because of Rod Wright as much as anything else.
Yeah, I agree. It looked to me, even under when Manny Diaz was here and they were here, and I talked to his dad, who's the nicest guy in the world. I got the impression they were looking for a reason to come to Miami and just weren't finding it. Well, now they have multiple reasons, and I agree with you. I think they have a great shot. In the meantime, I think you're missing the boat on this Deli Lane. I mean, this place has a great menu.
I've eaten there so many times. It's like it's nice. It's a nice restaurant. I know you want to get them as a sponsor now, Gary. Okay, you can
I do.
Listen,
You know,
I think everything's always great.
I've never heard of this. They have this thing called a pressed duck sandwich.
Don't get that. Do not get that. You will not be able to make practice the rest of the week. Okay.
Oh, have you had it?
No, I don't get a pressed duck sandwich at Deli Lane. That's not when you go to Deli Lane.
Listen to this. It's roast duck on a hoagie roll, pressed with grilled onions and brie cheese. I mean, that sounds phenomenal. I mean, it's just different, you know. But
do you go to Tropical Chinese and order a hamburger? No. Just like you don't go to Deli Lane and order a pressed duck sandwich. It's just on the menu to be there. They don't expect anyone to actually order it. It's just so they could look fancy. This is a place you get scrambled eggs and toast for breakfast for $8 and $7.
Is Tropical Chinese still in business?
Oh my God, yeah, that's a great place. The dim
sum. You ever go there for the dim sum?
Oh, listen. we would go there because
dim sum in town.
When my kids were young, they just loved the spinning table. You know, you just get all the stuff, and they spin it around in front of you. They just love spinning that table constantly.
Yeah, I used to go to Tropical Chinese. I haven't been there in years, but anyway, since we were, you know, being a little commercial here, great time, I would say, to hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
I will be your shield in the fiercest battle. I'll defend you.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is Cleveland Reed, and I play offensive line, and my job is to protect. I protect my family with Life Wallet. How about you?
Of course, I got Life Wallet. It's the best way to protect my family.
Long as we go together, we'll die, we'll never be a light. Couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never.
To protect you and your family, get Life Wallet now.
Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.
I can't wait till they produce that commercial we watched them film the other day. That looked like it's going to be pretty cool. I don't know. We'll have to see how it comes out. But anyway, moving on here. So, recruits visit. And the other thing I enjoyed seeing yesterday, Matt, was Frankie Tinalau. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. The new Mammoth offensive lineman in town. That's one of the greatest stories of recruiting this year. Hasn't played a single down of football in the United States. He's from Australia, but I mean, looks like an NFL tackle. Just an unbelievably chiseled kid. He's trying to get a visa to enroll at LaSalle High in the fall, and so he was out there watching practice. I think it's kind of obvious that Miami's got a great chance to get him. He's 6'6", 320 pounds. He'll be an offensive tackle. He'll be a project, but Matt, I think you would agree. You look like a project worth taking on.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't added up all the offers that Alex Mirabal has given out, but I don't think Alex Mirabal understands you can't sign 45 offensive linemen in one class. Somebody needs to tell the guy this, because he's offered, I swear, I think over 40 guys since he's gotten here. I've never seen anything like it. I told you this the other day. I don't know what the order is in which they're putting these guys and how often they change the order. I don't know if this guy even has a committable offer, because there's so many guys that are not projects, right? This is a guy who has a few offers right now. He had, I think, 4 offers 6 days ago. Now he has 9 offers. But we're talking about not top. We're not talking about the Alabama, Oklahoma of the world type programs.
He's a good-looking kid.
Now he's going to be in Australia for a while. He's going back to Australia, so he's not going to have a chance to do anything and get more offers, earn more offers, at least until June when he comes back for some camps. So really in June, we'll see if he blows up or not. I'm sure they'll try to get him here for Paradise Camp. There's no reason he wouldn't be here for that. He's trying to go to school in Miami. Definitely a good block.
It's not Paradise Camp anymore.
Oh, sorry. Oops. My bad. Elite Prospect Camp. No, I can't remember what it's called.
Legends Camp.
Legends Camp. Oh, boy. I'm in big trouble. You got to edit that out. People are going to hammer me. I had a memory lapse. I apologize, everybody. Please don't mention it in the messages. My mother reads the messages. Don't post this on the message board, please. Anyway, so we'll see what happens with him. But, I talked to him, and I've talked to Lou Headley and these other Australian guys, and for whatever reason, Frankie has a different kind of accent. I think it's been, he was somewhere before Australia, but it's a really interesting accent. So, I hope he comes here so fans can actually hear an interview with him, because it's almost like American/Australian a little bit. It was super interesting. Like that Inventing Anna show where she has like a weird accent. It seems like Russian, but not Russian. It's like an Australian accent, but not Australian. It's a really cool accent. So I like that kid a lot. Not just for the accent. I like the kid also.
Quarterback Mac Howard was out there too. He's from Mississippi. He's a 4-star kid. Frank Ponce was recruiting him to Appalachian State and has kind of continued recruiting.
Is he a 4-star or 3-star, that kid?
I think it's 4-star.
Oh, wow.
But still waiting on a Miami offer. We don't know if he'll get it or not. I think there are a few quarterbacks ahead of him on the board, but does have 12 offers: Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Houston, Utah, and Kansas among them. So we'll continue to monitor Mac Howard. We've got a basketball analysis coming off what I think you'd have to call, I mean, not baseball. Did I say basketball? I would say baseball analysis coming off of what I think we would have to say is a disappointing weekend series with Florida when you lose 2 of 3 at home. That's never a good thing, even if the opponent is not the Gators. In this case, the opponent was the Gators. So not a real good thing there. And then lastly, Matt, I want to talk about this last story that's on the website this morning. And it's a story that I'm breaking this morning, that Miami is about to give Jim Laranega a 2-year contract extension, which would extend him out to 4 guaranteed seasons. And that's a huge deal for Jim. I think it's a statement that he's not looking to leave. Miami's not looking to push him out the door, which it shouldn't be. I mean, Miami was this close to winning the ACC regular season title this year, one of Jim Larenega's greatest accomplishments, I thought. And Matt, really, it's just money. No harm if Jim has to retire. I'm sure they'll figure out what they're going to pay him in that circumstance. If Miami forces him into retirement, they have to pay him, and that's probably fair at this point.
I mean, look, I love Jim Laranega. He's a great coach. But correct me if I'm wrong. If they didn't give him the extension, he wasn't going to be going anywhere, right? No one's hiring him
but you need it for recruiting. You need it.
Yeah. So I mean, I assume this is like a fake contract where they say, okay, you got 2 years, but if we want to get rid of you,
it's not because they're guaranteeing the money.
Because if they're terrible next year and they want to get a new coach, why would you want to have that whole?
Because they're guaranteeing the money.
I think that's a little silly, honestly. Look, I know the athletic director knows what he's doing.
They're doing the right thing by Jim.
They're doing the right thing by Jim. How many major programs do the right thing by their coaches or players? If you're talking about NFL or whatever,
they're doing the right thing. And if it costs them a few $1 million, they're willing to live with it.
I would rather spend that few $1 million on some more upgrades to the football program.
I think it's becoming pretty obvious.
I love Jim Laranega to death. I think he did a great job this year. I think he's a great coach. They've had 3 bad years. Now they have a really good year, and he gets an extension, which is great. But I know there's going to be fans out there that are upset about this, and I understand why, because
no reason to be upset. He's done a spectacular job.
There will be people upset. You don't understand Miami basketball fans then, because
he's done one of the better jobs in the country this year. He deserves anything they'll do for him. In my opinion.
Just don't think you understand the fan mentality when it comes to basketball.
Yeah, well, I think they're wrong. I think he's got a good recruiting year going, and they could still get 3 transfers. So.
Why? Okay, usually you give an extension to prevent somebody from going somewhere else. I understand you're saying recruiting, okay? But no recruits can come here. They still know he's 70 years old. It's not like they think he's going to be here for 4 or 5 years. Like, basketball players are one and done, the ones that think they're great. So it doesn't matter if he gets an extension through 2025 for these guys. That's why I don't get it, but it's fine with me. I love the guy.
Yeah, I think they're doing the right thing, and congratulations, Jim, on that one. All right, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you for joining us. Hope that we gave you a good first day of coverage of spring practice. We got 14 more. We promise to keep it up. And we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.